Hey, all right. Welcome back to KM6 LYW Radio. This is the show about amateur radio with an emphasis on data modes, trying to reimagine them in an information age. But hey, today let's talk about antennas a bit, VHF, UHF stuff. What's on your roof? What are the pros and cons? I've made some changes to my shack. Maybe I can share some of my experiences with you. We're going to do that this time on KM6 LYW Radio. All right. Welcome back. That's right. We do our own bumper music here, and boy, do I apologize to Ted Nugent for that. One of these times I'm gonna get this bumper music right, and if I get it right, it'll be censored by the G word, and like the rest of this video would be silent. That's when you know I finally got the music right. But that wasn't it. I apologize to Ted for that. All right, so let's make me a whole lot smaller, and let's talk about antennas. Now, as some of you already know, I do have a roll-up JPole on my roof. That's what we're going to call it for right now. I don't know, I probably have a picture of it here. In fact, I use the N9TAX version of this. It's just zip tied to a fishing rod. It's kind of guyed out with some fishing string, and it's been my main VHF UHF antenna for a long time. But every time someone comes over, they're skinny lipping me, right? They're saying, Craig, what's the deal with the roll-up J-pole? I mean, can't you get a real antenna? It's like, well, it meets all of my needs, right? I really get out with this thing. So I decided to try a white stick antenna like a normal person. I only have one mounting point, and when it really comes to VHF, UHF stuff, honestly, there can be only one. They're going to mess with each other unless you've got canister filters and stuff. So I actually went out and bought a white stick antenna, and I put it in the exact same place as my N9 tack. So it's actually installed right here, and you can see it hopefully right there. It's mounted on the cable riser on my roof. It's about the same height overall, about 8, not even less than 9 feet, probably 8 feet tall with a little mounting hardware, and of course the N9 tax is on the fly rod. So it's about the same profile, the same ugliness, same awkwardness. So the diamond is actually on my roof now. It has finally replaced the roll-up J-pole, but they still, let's compare them. I have some objective measurements here. I have a bunch of data I can share with you guys. Let's go over it. All right, so switching back to this. So what we're trying here is a Slim Jim antenna versus a Diamond X200. Okay, the X200, that's kind of like the double height one. And the Slim Jim is made by N9TAX. Let's talk about some of the merits of each of these, how they're built. I really like them both, but maybe for your purposes, you're going to want to try one or the other. So we've got a lot of characteristics here. So let's start with the N9 Tax. This is Joe's antenna. He makes these. This is his website, n9taxlabs.com. This is called a roll-up J-pole, and I know a lot of people give the J-pole a hard time. Is it a J-pole though? This one's all rolled up. This is technically, call it a off-center fed dipole folded in half. See, if you call it that, suddenly it's an interesting antenna, with vertical orientation. I mean, that's really what these are. It's not a traditional J-pole antenna. In fact, Joe has some really cool info on this. He makes a UHF version as well. And so a roll-up J-pole is really this guy right here. Joe, you should show where the feed point is. Actually, the feed point's right at the bottom here. You've got the negative or shield leg over here, and you've got the center conductor or positive leg, for lack of another term, over here. And you can move these connections up and down on this to change the SWR. And there is a matching stub. That's what this guy is over here. And then the rest of this is the radiator that's actually folded in half. Now, Joe has put together some traps on this. They introduce capacitance. It's just a little bit of coax here, and it helps trap some of the 70 centimeter radiation in this section. So this is the N9 Tax J-pole. This is how this one works. I want to call it a 5/8 wave antenna, but Joe's got it here as a half wave element and a quarter wave element underneath. So it is unbalanced in that regard, but in my opinion, it works great. The SWRs is decent. In fact, it's real similar to the Diamond. It has, it's about 1.5 to 1 on each end, and really 1 to 1 right in the center. So I hung mine on a I hate to say it like this, on a fly rod. My N9 tack. So it's like in fact, I got it right here since I took it down. So this is my fly rod antenna. I don't know if I can do this. And you can see it's just Joe has all these different connectors you can put on there. Joe has some feed line you can put on this, and then I put it on the fly rod. Now the fly rod, and Joe will be the first to admit this, introduces some interference. So your SWR will resonate slower. It'll have a slower resonance point. And actually, this is good for us in data bands because we're kind of interested in the lower half of the VHF portion where most of the data modes are. So that was actually a good thing. Putting it on the fly rod just lowered the SWR just a little bit. So that is the Rollup JPole. Just for completeness, you can get other ones on eBay. They're not as good as Joe's, of course, but they make a 300 ohm version of this. You can see that it's that old twin lead you used to have in your old ancient TV set, and then they've got a thicker version of the 300 ohm, maybe a little more durable. And of course, if I'm going backpacking, these are going with me, so I can have a real antenna in the field. So that's the N9 tacks with some UHF traps here, so I can get better UHF performance. Okay, let's talk about the diamond side. Let's talk about the Diamond vertical. So this is installed in its place right now. This is by Diamond Antenna, a large Japanese manufacturer, though I don't know exactly where these are made. You can get these on Amazon somewhere. Let me see if I can find it. Maybe it's over here. So Amazon, it's in the 140 something range. You should be able to get it 100 150 US dollars. It's a two-section. The phasing on this is there's basically two antennas on one on top of each other, and I think that's how the phasing works. So there are 5/8 wave antennas. There's two of them, so you should get double the gain in that regard, in theory, right? So that's the VHF stuff. Now on the UHF side, there's like four antennas right on top of each other. There's four 5/8 wave UHF antennas on here. Now I've taken this one apart. I messed with it. Just to see what was in there. I just looked at the top half, and it is like a number 10 solid copper wire, and it's got interesting air coils at different points. I honestly don't know how they work or what they do, but that's what's in there. When I hung this in free space, the SWR in this was just spot on at 146 megahertz. That's the center of the band here in our ITU zone. Unfortunately, when I put it on top of my roof, there was some interference there, and it actually raised the resonance higher in the band, so it resonated faster. And I really don't don't have to have a lot of action there, so I was kind of disappointed. Because I want the resonance to be in the lower half of the band if I can for digital modes, and you should too, right? If that's what you want. So I read the instructions, unbelievably. I know you guys are shaking your head. I read the instructions. It says you just can't tune this antenna, so basically don't even try. So that's exactly what I did. I took it off the top half. You can slide the top tube off, and it exposes the copper element. And don't try this at home, but I just soldered on like maybe a quarter of an inch of copper, maybe 3/8 of an inch of copper right to the very tip of this antenna. Even though they say you don't tune it. And I'll be damned if I put it back on the roof, and the SWR had jumped down almost 1 megahertz, maybe 500 kilohertz. But I was definitely had the SWR very similar to where it was with the N9 Tax roll-up antenna. So at this point, I was thinking, well, I'm going to commit to this antenna. Initially, I was thinking, well, I'm going to have to ditch it. But that I did tune the Diamond antenna. Some of them I know had a matching circuit down at the bottom. With capacitors. From what I've read, that's not there. I didn't take this one apart to verify it yet, but from what I can tell right now, I've got a really good SWR rating on this. The Q on both of these antennas is about the same. The Q is how much bandwidth it has. That's kind of a sexy name to say how much bandwidth you have under a certain SWR ratio. So it was 1.5 to 1 on the ends on both of these initially before I started messing with them, putting them over my roof. But now it's more like a 1.3 to 1.7 on the high end, which is kind of where I want it. That's why it's centered in the band for me for data mode. So that is the Diamond antenna. I don't know if we have any more information on this. The mounting on this, actually for both of them, I bought these ambient weather or something heavy duty mast mount kit. I don't know if I can zoom this in anymore. These are really expensive, but they're clamps that allow you to clamp the the antenna to whatever your mast is. And of course, my mast on my roof is just the cable riser. It's where where I get my internet access, and it's really sturdy. And I was able to clamp it on with these clamps. So I would recommend getting these really expensive clamps. The diamond. The bottom of the diamond antenna has a galvanized tube that you're supposed to clamp onto that. But what I ended up doing was inserting it into this 1¼ inch piece of Schedule 40 PVC pipe. It fit perfectly inside here. I don't know if you guys can see this. I should probably make my video a little bit bigger. It fit perfectly inside of this. It was a horrible white color as well. So I actually painted it with this stuff. This is Rust-Oleum Ultra Cover Paint and Primer, Painter's Touch. I don't know, that's the brand name stuff. I actually emailed this company to ask them if they had any metals in their paint, and they don't. And I confirmed that. I painted something, put the multimeter on it. I was a little disappointed at first. There was some conductivity when it was wet, but once the emulsifier had evaporated, this paint had no conductivity. And after I painted the tube, the glistening white tube of the diamond, it didn't change the SWR at all. It was fantastic. And I didn't paint really the bottom metal elements just because I thought they looked cool being kind of that stainless steel galvanized color. So that's the diamond is up there hanging. That's how I installed it. I also have some LMR 400 Flex, Super Flex, Ultra Flex. You can get this on Amazon and wire this up. So maybe 20 feet of this to give you an idea of how that's working. Just for as far as the packaging goes, this is the Diamond X200. All the specs are there too. The gain ratings on all of these is ridiculous. Everyone says, "Oh, this is 6 dBi above dipole, 6 dB above but dipole or reference antenna." I don't know how they get that information. Everyone has to, it's inflated, all of those numbers. The best you can do is basically go down and just start transmitting and receiving and write down the S numbers on your radio. See what your receiving is. So it's going back to both antennas. I actually sat down with each antenna up there and I keyed up about 15 different repeaters in my area. Some are coming well, some come and don't. And I did it with the X200, I did it with the N9 TAX antenna, and I looked at the S meter reading. And of the 15, they were identical. Identical reception on VHF. These are all VHF repeaters. We don't do UHF much here. But for VHF repeaters, on about 10 to 15 of them, it was absolutely identical as far as the S meter was concerned on the reception. Now in transmitting, that's harder to test. You don't have friends out there all over your province with S meters. So what I did with this, when we're doing data modes, I connected to maybe 10 different WinLink nodes. And of course, their S meters are about the same. So in transmitting, I was able to hit the exact same number of nodes I could hit before, and I was able to hit the exact same number of nodes I couldn't hit before. And the ones that were dodgy that I could kind of hit, the WinLink nodes, using data modes, they were still just as dodgy with either antenna. So for VHF, in my opinion, the Diamond X200 was identical to the N9 TAX Rollup JPole antenna, or what he calls a Slim Jim. Rollup JPole is probably not a good name for it. Let's call it the Slim Jim. And so I did some more tests, and some of these are subjective, some of them are objective. So you guys are Mortal Kombat fans. I don't know. Remember the arcade game, Mortal Kombat? Nope. Let me see if I can get my video a lot smaller. So this is it. This is the antenna combat, the Diamond X200 versus the Slim Jim. In fact, you can probably see I've got Mortal Kombat running on the gaming console over there. I don't know. I got a retro arcade theme going here, guys. I apologize. All right, so Diamond versus Slim Jim. These are some observations. So first of all, the cost. Now the Diamond, like I said, it can be under $150 US dollars. It's a little expensive. The N9 TAX, I believe you can get a lot less than that. I don't know if he's got a shop here. I know he's got a store. It's usually under 30 bucks, and that's for the most complicated one. So here we have the dual bander, the 2 centimeter and 70 centimeter Slim Jim. Over zoomed, and it's under 30 bucks. It's $28, and that comes with a 10 or 16 foot cable and any connector you want. He'll solder it on there for you. The SWR will be centered for that antenna. So for under 30 bucks, you are up and in the air on the N9 tax, N9 TAX Slim Jim. So the winner, obviously for cost or price, maybe not necessarily value, but definitely for price, the winner is Slim Jim hands down by several times. So looking at installation, so I've installed both of these antennas. So the Slim Jim doesn't stand up by itself. You got to get a fly rod or something. And even if you've got a fly rod, like I did, I think I showed you that, I still had to guy it out with fishing string because it would just wobble all day long. So I had some polycarbonate fishing string. Don't use monofilament; that'll stretch out. And I just kind of guided out to different points on my roof. That worked. One time it snowed. You would be shocked at how much snow can build up on a little tiny piece of 8-pound fishing line, which is what I had up there. So the Slim Jim is awkward for your base station antenna. Now, if you're going to install it like hanging it from a tree, I'm going to say it's a tie. In fact, I'd probably have to give it to the Slim Jim since it's lighter. But that's if you're going portable and you want to sling this up into a tree with a piece of string. I actually slung both of them up in a tree when I was just testing them out, just to make sure there was you know, no interference or no metal around them just when I was doing the initial tests. But if you're going to do a solid base installation on your roof on a mast, I'm going to have to give it to the Diamond just because of the way it's built and its rigidity. That is the installation, the winner, Diamond X200 for installation. Now, portability, the Slim Jim, winner, hands down. I mean, the Slim Jim is, when Joe ships this, it's actually a lot smaller than this, and it comes in a little packet. This fits in a backpack. I mean, this is perfect for your SOTA operations. I can't imagine a better antenna than this when it comes to portability. It doesn't weigh anything. I don't know. I'm going with 6 ounces. It's reasonably heavy. And if you want to go even lighter, there's the 300 ohm version. It won't take quite the power, but this 300 ohm version has actually made it on several backpacking trips. The 300 ohm stuff. And again, it's a very similar design. Supportability, obviously, hands down, the Slim Jim is the winner. All right, durability. I don't know. Durability against what? Abrasion or wind or snow or ice. All of those things are going to be considerations. For durability, I gave it to the Diamond, if for no other reason that I had to guy out the Slim Jim, and it looked pretty ridiculous when it was snowing and the fishing line broke. But so far, the Diamond hasn't blown over. They say it's rated to over 100 miles an hour for wind rating. It's probably maybe not the way I installed it. I don't know if I mentioned I actually put this in a Schedule 40 sleeve. Yeah, I think I mentioned that. Just to give it a little more bite on the just to make it a little more durable. I kind of padded it with some little uh, Velcro pads on here, so it just fit nice and snug and really not wiggle. So the durability, I'm going to give it to the Diamond. It's a fiberglass tube. Yeah, you could break it over your knee if you wanted to, but there's just no way. I don't think wind is going to take that out. As far as the Slim Jim goes, you can wad it up, you can bend it. It's just it's a little more fragile in a base station environment. If you're hanging them from trees and they're exposed to wind, and smashing around, I'd probably give it to the Slim Jim. The Diamond, if it starts doing the pendulum thing in the trees, that's obviously gonna be an issue. You're gonna have durability problems. But overall, for a base station installation on a mast on your roof, I'm giving durability the winner to Diamond. All right, VHF Performance. Like I said, in my experience here, I keyed up about 15 repeaters. I got the same exact S readings for both of these coming back. Now, granted, the Diamond is a shorter antenna, but ultimately the overall height is exactly the same, even though the Diamond the Slim Jim and the Diamond are with the same physical height, but overall the Diamond antenna is a little shorter, so there's a little bit of a riser on it. And I keyed up all these. This just took a lot of time to get through these repeaters. If you're doing these tests, don't just kerchunk the repeaters, okay? Actually say, call KM6LYW radio testing or something. And yeah, someone's going to get on there, and that's cool. I actually made some friends and made some contacts just keying up repeaters that I wouldn't normally key up. I tried to get stuff that was distant just so I could see a difference in the S meters between these. So for VHF Performance, this was a tie for me. It was a wash, and it was to the point or I might as well just leave up the Slim Jim, mostly because initially the Diamond had that it was resonating higher in the band, higher than I wanted, at least until I was able to tune the untunable Diamond antenna. Um, yeah, I don't know if I should be sharing that, but anyways, VHF Performance, the winner is definitely a tie. All right, standing wave ratio and Q factor. Again, this is a tie. These are objective measurements for these. So I do have an SWR meter here. When these were suspended in free space, they were at 1.5 at each end of the VHF spectrum here in my ITU region. And at some points, I could actually get 1 to 1. I mean, it's theoretically impossible, I suppose, but they were really about 50 ohms with zero reactance, right in the center at 146 megahertz. So just hanging them in free space, the SWR was 1 to 1 at the center of the band, and the Q was identical. Now the Q is just a sexy name to say what your bandwidth of your antenna is. Basically, what is the SWR at the endpoint? So if you have a high Q antenna, which you don't want, you have really high SWR at the endpoints of your antenna. Okay, and if you have a low Q, it's basically low SWR across the entire band. So when it comes to SWR and Q factor for the Slim Jim and the Diamond antenna, tie. All right, color. This is obviously a subjective one, but if you live in an HOA, it can be a big deal. You can get a diamond stick antenna like this in any color you want, so long as it's white. I hope you like white antennas. I had to paint it. It was just glistening pearlescent white. I live in the woods here. A lot of people paint them battleship gray. I've seen other guys paint them camouflage. In fact, look that up. There's a cool YouTube or a website on just how to paint one of these. Now the Slim Jim comes in black. I don't think there's any twin lead you can get that isn't black, and black antennas matter. So this one I didn't have to paint. It was actually a little thinner from one angle. It was really hard to see from the street. The Diamond's a little bit thicker. I don't know if I have a side. So this is the Diamond from the side of my house, from the front of my house. You can see it pretty obviously here. It's a stick antenna. But the N9 tax, let's zoom that into the same scale. It's gone. This is from the narrow profile. It's right here, but man, it's gone. It's really hard to see. So a black antenna or even a dark green antenna, invisible against the oak trees in my house. I was really lucky in that regard. But as far as the color goes, the Slim Jim's the winner. If you, it's just the winner. There's just no doubt about it being black. So you do have to paint, at least in my case, paint the Diamond antenna. All right. In our next match, we have Diamond versus Slim Jim taste. These taste exactly the same. The only reason I put taste on here is just to remind myself what these are actually made out of. So the Slim Jim itself, I think, is made out of a high density polyethylene. You can leave this out in the sun for decades. It's not going to rot. It's not going to get bad. So it tastes like polyethylene. The Diamond, on the other hand, is a fiberglass rod. Looks like it's painted fiberglass. Has pretty much no taste whatsoever. I don't know how long these are going to last in the sun. I'm saying this is a tie just because I don't know how long these last. Maybe you guys can tell me. I read some things of people saying, well, the paint faded a little bit, it's a little more opaque or transparent, but it's going to last as long as fiberglass will last in the sun. And in California, that's a big deal. We get a lot of sun here. The Slim Jim I've had on the roof literally for 3-4 years. It looks exactly the same as it comes down as when it went up. So these basically, this is a tie when it comes to taste. This is really the materials. What else we got? Next, fighting Diamond versus Slim Jim. We've got UHF Performance. This was the shocker. This is what clinched it for me. This is why I have a Diamond on my roof. The clear winner is Diamond on UHF Performance. And my one anecdote that supports that, I didn't go around and key up UHF repeaters. We just don't have very many of them. But we do have one at the club that's maybe 6 miles away that I could never hit with the N9 Tax Slim Jim. Even though it's kind of the UHF dual bender combo and it has traps for 70 centimeter, it just doesn't perform well on UHF. And Joe will be the first to admit it. It's just the nature of the antenna. It doesn't have UHF phasing elements on it. It just doesn't. But it kind of gets that contact high of being an odd multiple of 140. Up to 440, right? So it kind of there's low SWR there, but the spread and pattern is probably not as good as it could be. The Diamond, on the other hand, with 4 5/8 70 centimeter elements in a collinear matter. It was amazing. So the anecdote here is we have a UHF repeater. It's actually a fusion repeater, and every now and then I could hit it on the Slim Jim, and I really wanted to hit it because it was fusion, and I'm kind of I like Yaesu radios. I want to try that out, and every now and then it would beep back at me, and maybe I would literally get like an S0, and if you can imagine that on the Slim Jim. As soon as I put the diamond antenna up on it, I put it in a wires X mode. I keyed it up, and the response tone was an S5. So the diamond has got S5 S units over the Slim Jim. I don't even know what S units are, honestly. It's a logarithmic scale for magnitude. Anyways, the meter went way up, they were halfway up the scale with the diamond. For UHF, this is what clinched it for me. The UHF performance on the diamond antenna is amazing to me, and that's just coming from the Rollup JPole, which arguably isn't designed for UHF, but you can make it work in a pinch. So the UHF performance is really, even though I don't use UHF very much, what clinched it for me to leave it on my roof, at least for now. So the diamond was there. UHF performance. So overall, man, it was close. Right now, I am going to leave the diamond on my roof for the meantime. I'm going to make that the winner. I'm going to declare the Diamond X200 the winner over the Slim Jim. Not because of cost, because it's really expensive, not because of the color. I had to paint it. There's a lot of drawbacks to it, but I think overall the diamond has the edge, especially if you're using UHF. You really need to consider that. But if you have the Slim Jim so cheap, go out and buy a couple of them. It is the de facto standard for portable antennas. If you're doing summits on the air, the Slim Jim would clearly be the winner. But in this case, I was using a base antenna. And the diamond just seemed to work for me there. I don't think I'm going to switch it back, and unless there's, I don't know, unless it breaks off or something. I don't know. All right, so that is diamond versus Slim Jim. I don't think I have any more slides. We did it. We got through it. We got through antenna combat, and then on your roof where you've just got a single mast, you know, there can be only one, and right now that's going to be the diamond on mine. All right, so we got through it, guys. Awesome. I'll minimize this. I want to make sure I covered everything in this video. I think we're getting to the last part, and this is the patrons. So patreon.com/KM6LYW radio. I'm wide-eyed on this. I cannot believe how many patrons we have here. If you sign up to be a patron, you can get early access to videos and maybe more importantly, early access to software from KM6LYW radio. In fact, if you're one of the lucky few who has a Raspberry Pi Zero or anything that has a microchip in it these days, look up the DigiPi project at Krager.org/DigiPi. And if you're a patron, Krager.org/DigiPi, you will get access to the DigiPi data hotspot. It's Raspberry Pi based. You build it yourself. It has every data mode you can possibly think of, and it's all accessible. Of course, I don't have one with me, with a cell phone or a tablet or any Wi-Fi device. No monitors or keyboards. It's a data hotspot for amateur radio. That's Krager.org/DigiPi. And that's a good reason to sign up at patreon.com/KM6LYW radio. And so the support's been overwhelming, completely exceeded my expectations. The guys at the top here, you have been with me the longest. I think that's what this is. We got Fu, Brian, Jake, Jason, Dan, Christopher, Michael, Steve, William, Simon, and Jim. That's just the top guys. Brian, that's Brian with a Y. I caught your comment in one of my videos, Brian with a Y. I replace your name there because I think it just comes in as your initials in Patreon. So thank you. Going through the rest of these, I got NW2W, that's Mark in parentheses, Jeff, Tim, Mark, Scott, Brian, Gordon, John, Tarbox. I'm recognizing a lot of these names because you guys are hanging out with us on the Discord channel. So we have a Discord channel for DigiPi. Look up DigiPi Discord channel. In fact, Simon has the invite. When you sign up for KM6LYW Radio, you get all this information. You get the mailing list and all that stuff. So we got Malcolm, David, Ken, Randy, Tom. We have multiple Toms. Thank you, Toms. SB Fox, Bradley, uppercase, Johan Nielsen. I'm going to go with Sweden on that name. I try and guess where you guys are from. And this is global, right? This isn't just like an America's thing or something. Thank you, guys. Troy, David, Jerry, James, Martin, Wayne, Scott, Tom, Jamie. I can't believe how long this list is, you guys. Matthew, Stephen. Thank you, guys. I really appreciate it. You guys are really motivating me. And you guys are also a bad influence on me too. You're making me make these funny videos that aren't funny. Right, all the way down to I think the newest guys at the bottom here. We've got A Kiddo. I think I mentioned I liked your name when you signed up. A Kiddo. Thank you, A Kiddo. Let me know what A stands for. Alfred, Martin, Scott, Joe, and Charles Jesse. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate it. All right, so this has been Antenna Combat on KM6LYW radio. Like and subscribe, please. We're over 1,000 subscribers, right? That's more than I ever thought we would ever have here. Like and subscribe. Tell me what antennas you're using as your base radio and why. What are your requirements? What are your constraints? What antenna did you wind up with? This is KM6LYW radio, and I'm clear.